Hey everybody, I thought maybe this week I'd mix it up a little bit and do a video example, so sort of a video pin post on the sample report evening shades. Now, what you've got going this week is really interesting in the discussions at least. You are rewriting the sample paper, the evening shades one, executive summary, and you're going back to week 3's Victoria Business School report to practice taking the sample that you see a lot of data for, so the data is already collected in the evening shades report, and you're putting it into a more professional business-like delivery document. And so I'm going to show you how I did this, and I've highlighted a couple of different things, and I've got some windows open. I just want to show you, if I was a student, sort of the processes that I did. So the first place I went to was the Victoria School report, and I went back and read through all of the different pages, but then at the end on page 26 is a sample executive summary. And so what you'll find with the evening shades report is that a lot of the content was already there. So let's finish it together. You see that we have executive summary. Let's talk format first. Headers are very important in business documents because business documents aren't the same as an academic essay that you did in like writing 112, right? So which is meant to be read from beginning to end with multiple prose paragraphs that build upon one another. Business documents are meant to be sort of hop in, hop out as you need to. An executive summary is sort of a one-page, one-stop shop that organizes information in two ways with the different header sections, and we practiced that with the lit review, right? And the other way it organizes it is that it uses visuals like number lists or bullet lists, sometimes small tables, to convey very quick information. So you can see in the purpose and method of the report, it's done briefly. The executive summary should not go beyond a page. We've got that information. And there we have findings and conclusions in one section just to give the conclusion of the report. And then you've got a quick recommendation section. So stakeholders, the important people that are going to be getting these memos that are coming up, and then the actual report for writing assignment number 4 will get a sense of, okay, you've done all of the heavy labor. What decisions do they have to make? Now, what they can do is quickly get a sense of what the problem is, and the decisions are within the bullet points. Do they say yes or no to these recommendations? So it makes the C-suite actors' jobs a little bit more efficient, right? And that's what an executive summary does. So your assignment this week was to go through and already look at one that had the data, and that was evening shades, right? To look through this and to take the executive summary that was listed here and reorganize it in a much more palatable business style. Okay, so that was writing discussion number 1. And I've started modifying this, and you can see here how we've got an executive summary. I'm going to make the font just a little bit bigger so that the title of the document stands out. Now remember, in this assignment, in the writing assignment 3 and writing assignment 4, which is the memo and then the actual report where, you know, this is part of that. The only aspects of this business writing that are in APA style are your in-text citations whenever you mention secondary research and a references section. So that's where the academic writing and the business writing tend to overlap significantly. But you don't have to. I formatted this, I think, just to fill the page and to make it look consistent. I think I formatted this in 1.5, but you can do it a little bit smaller if you want to, but I actually think 1.5 is just more consistent and pleasing. And whatever the spacing you've got on the next sections, you want to make sure that you're consistent throughout the entirety of a document. And in this discussion, of course, we're just practicing the executive summary. All of my headers are consistent, and I don't have a lot of extra gaps between them. I just made them bold 12, and I made the sections within the executive summary consistent as well. In I think I chose a 12-point Times New Roman, and Times New Roman is my favorite. I think just because it's much easier to read. Okay. Now we need to actually finish that thought there. So part of what was on the original document for evening shades said, recently at the Pittsfield Mall outlets location of evening shades, the management has become increasingly frustrated at its inability I would say there, inability to motivate associates to perform the duties assigned to them. After cycling through numerous associates, and then you'll notice I highlighted this. It says a problem may exist, and I said problems must exist because it looks like in the recommendation that there are multiple issues that need to be addressed. Some problems must exist that prevent new hires from understanding their duties enough to accomplish them, or from motivating them to stay well and accomplish duties. I thought that I wanted to sort of draw that discussion out a little bit. Remember the purpose of the research and then the method. The part that's highlighted here I added because it just started by saying a survey for associates. But if you go back to the sample Victoria business model, I thought that maybe it's a good way to sort of establish a bit more in-depth discussion is to let the audience of executives know that your understanding of different types of research. So I just added a small sentence that says, primary and secondary research was conducted. A survey for our associates was designed and administered to determine causes of the confusion could be in addition. Secondary research, and I believe I added this, was performed to evaluate how similar businesses train and manage new personnel, because that was part of the actual Evening Shades report that was not in the executive summary. So now you can see why I highlighted some of that I modified and added from the original, but most of what in the original is presented here. Findings and conclusions. The result of the survey confirmed that a lack of consistent training was one contributing cause. Currently, now you'll notice I highlighted 24, and if you look at the original, 24 was spelled out. Another way we can adapt a consistent academic style is by modifying and using the number rules of APA. And the number rules of APA is spell out any number, or excuse me, use the numeral for any number above 10. And I went and I double checked that. And so that's why I went and updated this. And since this number is below that and the paragraph's not particularly long, you can see why I shifted some of those numbers for ease of reading. Often, and some caveats to any number rule actually are that if you have a lot of numbers in a small space, even if it breaks the rule, it's okay. So because we have 3 number usages in 2 sentences, I think this is perfectly fine, right? Business writing isn't as regimented as academic style APA writing, but we can use some of the rules that you've adapted to in prior classes and assignments to make these texts much more consistent. The consistent headers for visual smoothness, consistent number use. It chose to use a number list instead of a bullet list. And so I modified that section of recommendations. I kept the phraseology. This mirrored the Victoria Business School. And, I would probably go through this one more time and tinker with it again, but my first glance at practicing this executive summary from Evening Shades is I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. A lot of the data was there. We're organizing it in a fashion to make it much more functional for the people who are going to be reading this report, and for the decision makers in the end. They can come down and they can look at some of these recommendations. Now, if I was a student, before I submit this, I think I'd modify it one more time and I'd double check that I was accurate with everything here. But I believe that hopefully this video helps you see what you can do in practicing executive summaries, and it gives you ideas on how to manipulate the data that you're gathering and your warm-up writing and put it into an executive summary fashion. I'll tell you, even in my academic life, I've actually written multiple executive summaries for decision makers when I was making arguments. I was on committees and I was making arguments for issues of pay differential between faculty who taught online and faculty who taught face-to-face. And so we had to do like a white paper, but we had an executive summary that came with it. And it was eye-opening for me because it had been a while since I had done one of these. And so even in academia, we do executive summaries quite often. And so I think this is a wonderful task for you to carry into the business world, especially if you're moving into a management position of some sort. I hope this exercise was helpful for you. Let me know if you have any questions. Oh yeah, and one other note. I noticed that there was a missing word here, so I'm going to continue to modify this, and I think I will attach my little along with this video. I'll attach my version of the document so you can see it in live form.